Today we are going the top 5 real-life exorcisms caught on tape. Kick back, grab a snack and hit the subscribe button. #5. The Exorcism of Analise Michelle, 1975 to 1976. Analise Michelle was born in 1952 in Bavaria, Germany, into a deeply religious Catholic family. At 16, she began experiencing disturbing symptoms, including severe depression, hallucinations, and seizures. Initially diagnosed with temporal lobe epilepsy, she was treated with medication, but her condition worsened, leading her to believe she was possessed by demons. Her family, sharing her belief, sought the help of the Catholic Church after traditional medical treatments failed to alleviate her suffering. After a lengthy battle with the Church's bureaucracy, Father Arnold Renz and Father Ernst Alt were granted permission to perform the rite of exorcism on Analise in 1975. Over the next 10 months, she underwent 67 exorcism sessions, during which her behavior became increasingly erratic and violent. The priest recorded these sessions on audio tape, capturing chilling moments where Analise spoke in multiple voices, some claiming to be demonic entities such as Lucifer, Judas Iscariot, Nero, Cain, and even Hitler. The tapes reveal Annalise's disturbing transformation during these sessions. She would scream for hours, display superhuman strength, and speak in languages she had no prior knowledge of, such as Latin. She exhibited an extreme aversion to religious objects, often destroying crucifixes and holy pictures. Her body showed signs of self-inflicted injuries, and she refused to eat, claiming the demons would not allow her to consume food. Despite her physical and mental deterioration, the exorcisms continued, as her family and priests believed they were necessary to save her soul. Annalise's condition continued to deteriorate, leading to her death on July 1, 1976. She was only 23 years old, and the official cause of death was malnutrition and dehydration. The aftermath of her death led to a highly publicized trial in 1978, where her parents and the 2 priests were charged with negligent homicide. They were found guilty but received reduced sentences, as the court acknowledged that they genuinely believed Analise was possessed. The case of Analise Michelle remains a topic of intense debate and speculation. Many experts argue that her symptoms were indicative of severe mental illness, including epilepsy, schizophrenia, and dissociative disorder, which were misunderstood and mistreated. Others, however, believe that the recordings of her exorcisms provide undeniable evidence of demonic possession, pointing to the unnatural phenomena that occurred during the sessions. The tapes from Annalise's exorcisms are among the most compelling and terrifying evidence in the history of documented exorcisms. They have been analyzed by paranormal investigators, theologians, and skeptics alike, each drawing their own conclusions. The case has inspired several books, documentaries, and films, most notably The Exorcism of Emily Rose, which dramatizes her tragic story. Annalise's story serves as both a cautionary tale and a chilling reminder of the thin line between faith and fanaticism. While some see her as a martyr who suffered for her beliefs, others view her as a victim of religious extremism and a failed healthcare system. Regardless of one's interpretation, the exorcism of Analise Michelle remains one of the most disturbing and compelling cases in the annals of paranormal history. 4. The Exorcism of Maurice Theel. Maurice Theel, often referred to as Frenchie, was a farmer living in the rural town of Warren, Massachusetts. His life was marked by hardship and trauma, beginning with an abusive childhood. As Maurice grew older, he began to exhibit strange and disturbing behaviors, which included sudden bursts of strength, violent outbursts, and claims of seeing dark, shadowy figures. His wife Nancy and others around him reported witnessing inexplicable events, such as objects moving on their own and hearing disembodied voices. Maurice's condition escalated over time, and by 1985 he was desperate for help. His strange behavior and the eerie occurrences in his home caught the attention of Ed and Lorraine Warren, famous paranormal investigators known for their work on cases like the Amityville Horror. After visiting Maurice, the Warrens became convinced that he was under the influence of demonic forces. They documented his case and arranged for an exorcism to be performed by Bishop Robert McKenna, a traditionalist Catholic priest. The exorcism of Maurice Theel was captured on video, and the footage is deeply unsettling. During the ritual, Maurice exhibited signs of possession, including speaking in tongues, convulsing violently, and showing an aversion to religious objects. At one point, Maurice began to bleed from his eyes, a phenomenon that the Warrens believed was a manifestation of stigmata. The footage also shows Maurice contorting his body in unnatural ways and growling in a deep, inhuman voice, further convincing those present of the demonic presence. Despite the exorcism, Maurice continued to struggle with his inner demons. The ritual provided only temporary relief, and Maurice's behavior remained erratic and violent. He continued to experience unexplained phenomena, and his relationship with his wife deteriorated as a result. The Warrens documented these ongoing events, adding to their extensive case files. In 1992, Maurice's story took a tragic turn when he shot and killed his wife before taking his own life, leaving behind a legacy of horror and unanswered questions. The video footage of Maurice's exorcism has become one of the most cited pieces of evidence in discussions of demonic possession. It showcases not only the physical manifestations of what many believe to be a possession, but also the psychological toll it took on Maurice and those around him. Critics, however, argue that Maurice's behavior could have been the result of severe mental illness, exacerbated by his traumatic past and the intense religious environment he was exposed to. The case of Maurice Theel raises important questions about the nature of possession, and the fine line between mental illness and supernatural phenomena. While some view his exorcism as proof of the existence of demons, others see it as a tragic example of what can happen when psychological disorders are misunderstood and untreated. The Warrens' involvement has only added to the mystique surrounding the case, as their reputation and experiences lend credence to the belief in the paranormal. Maurice's story continues to be a source of fascination for paranormal investigators and enthusiasts. The footage of his exorcism remains one of the most compelling pieces of evidence in the debate over demonic possession. Whether one believes in the supernatural or not, the case of Maurice Theel is a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk within the human soul. 3. The exorcism of the Smurl family. The Smurl family's nightmare began in 1973 when they moved into a duplex in West Pittston, Pennsylvania. Jack and Janet Smurl, along with their 4 daughters, quickly realized that their new home was anything but ordinary. They were plagued by foul odors, strange noises, and dark shadows that seemed to move throughout the house. Over time, the haunting escalated, with family members experiencing physical attacks, such as being scratched, pushed, and even sexually assaulted by unseen forces. As the paranormal activity intensified, the Smurls sought help from the Catholic Church and various paranormal experts. Their story eventually reached Ed and Lorraine Warren, who conducted an investigation and concluded that the family was being tormented by a powerful demonic entity. According to the Warrens, the demon was capable of moving between both sides of the duplex and was intent on breaking the family spirit. The Warrens documented their findings, and their involvement brought national attention to the case. In 1986, after years of torment, the Smurl family finally convinced the Catholic Church to perform an exorcism on their home. The exorcism was conducted by Father Robert McKenna, who had experience dealing with demonic entities. The event was partially recorded, capturing the terror that the family endured during the ritual. The recordings reveal the sounds of growling, banging, and the cries of the afflicted family members as Father McKenna and the Warrens recited prayers and performed rituals in an attempt to banish the demon. During the exorcism, the demon is said to have manifested physically, appearing as a dark, shapeless mass that moved through the house. Despite the efforts of Father McKenna and the Warrens, the exorcism was not entirely successful, and the family continued to experience paranormal activity for several more years. The ongoing haunting took a significant toll on the Smurls, affecting their health, relationships, and mental well-being. The family even attempted to move, but the entity followed them, suggesting a personal attachment rather than a mere haunting. The Smurl family's story became a media sensation, with numerous news outlets covering their ordeal. In 1988, the Warrens co-authored a book titled The Haunted with Robert Curran, detailing the Smurls' experiences and the exorcism attempts. The book was later adapted into a made-for-TV movie in 1991, further cementing the case's place in paranormal history. However, the family faced skepticism and ridicule from some quarters, with critics accusing them of fabricating the story for attention and profit. Despite the skepticism, the Smurl family remained steadfast in their claims, insisting that they were victims of a genuine demonic attack. The Warrens, too, stood by their findings, arguing that the evidence they gathered, both in terms of eyewitness accounts and recorded phenomena, was proof of the supernatural. To this day, the Smurl haunting remains one of the most debated and analyzed cases in the annals of paranormal investigation. The exorcism of the Smurl family serves as a stark reminder of the potential dangers of the unseen world. Whether one believes in demons or views the events as the result of psychological stress and environmental factors, the fear and suffering experienced by the Smurls were all too real. Their story continues to captivate and terrify, leaving many to wonder what truly lurked within the walls of their home. 2. The Exorcism of Emma Schmidt. The Exorcism of Emma Schmidt, also known by the pseudonym Anna Eklund, is one of the most well-documented and harrowing cases of possession in the 20th century. Born in 1882 in the United States, Emma grew up in a devoutly Catholic family. Her troubles began in her early teens when she started exhibiting strange behaviors such as an intense aversion to religious objects, speaking in languages she had never learned, and showing knowledge of hidden sins. Her family believed that she was under the influence of demonic forces, a belief reinforced by the presence of her Aunt Mina, who was rumored to be a practitioner of black magic. In 1912, Emma underwent her first exorcism, which provided temporary relief, but the possession soon returned with even greater ferocity. By 1928, her condition had become unbearable, with Emma displaying extreme symptoms of possession, including levitation, unnatural body contortions, and speaking in multiple voices simultaneously. Desperate for help, her family turned to Father Theophilus Riesinger, a Capuchin priest with a reputation for dealing with cases of possession. He agreed to perform an exorcism, which took place over a period of 23 days in a convent in Erling, Iowa. The exorcism of Emma Schmidt is often described as one of the most intense and grueling exorcisms ever recorded. Father Riesinger, along with several nuns and priests, witnessed terrifying phenomena during the ritual. Emma would speak in different voices, each with a distinct personality, and often in languages she had no knowledge of, including Latin and Hebrew. She exhibited superhuman strength, often breaking free from the restraints meant to protect her from self-harm. The room would fill with foul odors, and strange noises such as growling and banging would emanate from the walls. During the exorcism, Emma revealed disturbing details about her life, including the involvement of her aunt in cursing her and inviting demonic entities into her life. The exorcism was physically and mentally exhausting for everyone involved, as Emma's behavior became increasingly violent and erratic. Witnesses reported seeing her levitate above the bed, her body contorting in impossible ways. The demons, speaking through Emma, would mock and taunt the priests, claiming they would never be expelled. Despite the overwhelming challenges, Father Riesinger and his team persisted in their efforts. After 23 days of intense prayer and ritual, the exorcism finally succeeded. Emma was freed from the demonic influence, and she reportedly lived the rest of her life in peace, though she remained deeply religious and cautious of the spiritual realm. The case was documented in a detailed report by Father Riesinger, which has since been studied by theologians and paranormal investigators as a classic example of demonic possession. The exorcism of Emma Schmidt has left a lasting legacy in the world of paranormal research. It has been cited in numerous books, documentaries, and scholarly articles as one of the most compelling cases of possession in history. The detailed accounts of the ritual, along with the testimony of those involved, provide a chilling insight into the horrors of demonic possession and the strength of faith required to overcome it. While some skeptics argue that Emma's symptoms could have been the result of mental illness, the sheer intensity and complexity of the case make it difficult to dismiss outright. The exorcism of Emma Schmidt remains a powerful testament to the mysteries of the human mind and the potential for darkness that lies within. 1. The Exorcism of Robbie Manheim. The Exorcism of Robbie Manheim, better known by his pseudonym Roland Doe, is one of the most famous exorcism cases in history, inspiring the 1973 film The Exorcist. Robbie was a 14-year-old boy living in Maryland when he began experiencing strange phenomena following the death of his beloved aunt, who had introduced him to the Ouija board. The family reported unexplained noises, furniture moving on its own, and objects flying across the room. Robbie himself began displaying disturbing behaviors, such as speaking in a guttural voice, developing unusual strength, and exhibiting an intense aversion to religious objects. Desperate for help, Robbie's family consulted several priests, who attempted to perform exorcisms. However, the rituals were met with fierce resistance, with Robbie becoming violent and the phenomena intensifying. After several failed attempts, the family turned to Father William Bowdern, a Jesuit priest from St. Louis, who agreed to take on the case. The exorcism took place over several weeks at the Alexian Brothers Hospital in St. Louis, with Father Bowdern assisted by Father Walter Halloran and several other priests. The exorcism of Robbie Manheim is documented in a detailed diary kept by Father Raymond Bishop, who was present during the ritual. According to the diary, Robbie exhibited signs of possession, including speaking in Latin, which he had never studied, levitating off the bed, and having strange markings appear on his body. The priests also reported witnessing objects moving on their own, including a bottle of holy water that flew across the room and smashed against the wall. Robbie would scream in pain whenever prayers were recited, and he often cursed and spat at the priests. As the exorcism progressed, the phenomena became increasingly violent. Robbie would thrash about, screaming obscenities and threatening the priests. At one point, the word hell was said to have appeared scratched onto his chest. The priests were physically and emotionally exhausted, but they persisted, believing that they were engaged in a battle for Robbie's soul. The final exorcism session was particularly intense, with Robbie reportedly levitating above the bed and speaking in a demonic voice. The priests continued their prayers, and after several hours Robbie fell into a deep sleep, from which he awoke completely free of the demonic influence. Following the exorcism, Robbie's life returned to normal, and he went on to live a relatively quiet and uneventful life. The details of the exorcism were kept secret for many years, with the church and the family refusing to discuss the case publicly. However, the story eventually leaked, and it became the basis for The Exorcist, which brought the terrifying events to a global audience. The book and subsequent film adaptation became cultural phenomena, cementing Robbie's exorcism as one of the most famous and chilling exorcism cases in history. The case of Robbie Manheim has been studied extensively by theologians, psychologists, and paranormal investigators. While some believe it to be a genuine case of demonic possession, others argue that Robbie may have been suffering from a severe psychological disorder, possibly exacerbated by the trauma of losing his aunt and the influence of the Ouija board. Despite the skepticism, the eyewitness accounts and the detailed diary kept by Father Bishop provide compelling evidence that something extraordinary took place during those harrowing weeks. The exorcism of Robbie Manheim continues to be a subject of fascination and fear, serving as a reminder of the potential dangers of dabbling in the occult and the mysteries of the unknown. Whether one believes in possession or not, the story of Robbie Manheim is a powerful testament to the enduring power of faith and the human capacity to confront the darkest of evils.